Namaskar, welcome to Honest Astrologer YouTube channel, and today I have a very special guest, one of the senior astrologers who agreed to come on my channel when this was a very chotu channel once upon a time, and he was kind enough to accept my invitation to come for a session on a very difficult topic and a topic which I personally struggle with. I have to admit that's why I've called him the master himself. So please welcome Shri E.K. Dhilip Kumar to discuss retrograde planets, which is one of the most confusing phenomena in astrology. Sir, welcome. Such an honor to have you, and thank you for agreeing to teach us. This is something which eludes me, and I'm sure it eludes a lot of astrologers. So it's a blessing to have you agree to this interview. And I remember when we first started to do this, it was Mercury retrograde, and we had to change our plans. So finally, it's such an honor to have you here, sir. Such a blessing. The channel is yours, the platform is yours. Please.
Thank you so much.
So the first question is, what's a retrograde planet and how does this phenomena occur?
Whenever we say retrograde, two grahas are always retrograde, right? Rahu and Ketu always retrograde. If you take the mean
Yes.
Rahu and Ketu, it is always retrograde.
Yes.
And then Sun and Moon are never retrograde.
Yes.
So we only have the remaining grahas where there is a possibility of a retrograde motion.
Yeah.
Now, why this retrograde happens is because of the way our orbits are. Like for example, the Mercury orbit. If you take, let's say, we'll start with the outer planets.
Yeah.
Like for example, Mars. Okay, Mars is immediately adjacent to the Earth's orbit, and luckily all the grahas are going in the same direction only. So, but because the orbit is slightly, like for example, for Mars has obviously the larger orbit, right? So the way we catch up is very different in the sky. So for example, Mars will be comparatively moving slower because it is in the outer orbit, right?
Yes.
We'll forget Venus and Mercury for the time being.
Yeah.
And if I'm looking from Earth, and if you can draw the solar system and connect the lines from Earth, if I keep looking at where Mars is, I only have reference as the stars on the background.
Right.
I don't have any other reference. Suppose I show something like this to you, you know which is going where only by referring against the background.
True.
And this is the fact about astrology, because when you're saying planets and stars are, at a unimaginable distance from us.
True.
So it's not really the stars, but it's only the planet position. So the planet's position, as you see from here, and then you see something like, let's say, Ashwini nakshatra on the background. And what will happen is, because the Earth is actually crossing, because of its faster speed, it will temporarily appear that Mars is going backwards.
Okay.
So if you keep drawing lines with an imaginary, if you have something like an animation done, and there are plenty of animation on YouTube. Now we are in a very big advantage because of all these videos by astronomers, right? So you can actually watch it and see that the Earth moves forward. And so from Earth's point of view, if you draw a straight line going right through Mars, on the other side, if you see the stars, it'll actually start looking like it's going from Ashwini to Revati. And after some time, when the Earth rotates like this, it hits one point. After that, it'll again appear to go forward.
Okay.
And it's very predictable. The easy way of imagining this is you simply place outer planets. It's very easy this way, this formula: Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Okay. Where is the peak or the midpoint of a retrograde motion? Is straight one line cutting through, like the Sun, the Earth, and that graha. That's all. It's very simple. So it looks like when you have a moon opposite the Sun, we call it full moon.
Okay.
So we could actually use the term full Jupiter, full Mars, full Saturn.
Wow. Never thought like that. Excellent.
Yeah, you think, because it is full. And that is the reason why the Maharishi, that is Maharishi Parashara, which is considered the foremost book, at least what we have now, Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra, gives a full point in the Shadbala calculation. Take it, full point. Why? It is in the same way that we will say, it is all about light, right? And this light is coming from the sun. So if you understand this, it is like a full Mars. But then if you have full Mars, like how in full moon, even before that, the moon is already big.
Right.
And even after some time, the moon is still, big enough. It doesn't become small immediately.
Right.
So you have an orb minus and plus of wherever the peak was, which is a straight line from sun cutting through Earth and then going straight to Mars or Jupiter or Saturn.
Yes.
So simple way, if you see at least the outer planets opposite the sun, without, even if it is not mentioned in the horoscope, you can simply say it is retrograde.
Wow.
You don't need any software for that. But then we have the orb, like from which point to which point it is, and surely we'll be at the mercy of the software.
Yeah.
But if it is straight opposite, no need for software. You simply say it is retrograde.
Excellent.
From this point, you know that when something is full, in astrology, always it is like, it is packed with karma. So there is something very strong about it. So that's why they call it, Shakta. A retrograde planet is Shakta. But what happened if you look at the Shadbala, Maharishi Parashara's calculation runs to almost 40 pages in the book.
Oh, wow.
And with such detailed calculations, when it comes to the Vakra status, he is able to, make some differentiation in what kind of Vakra this is and then allot points accordingly. A true Vakra gets a full point.
Okay.
Because there is an intermediate something like it is still stationary and it is moving a little backward and it's not picked up that regular speed of even going backwards. But all said and done, a Vakra Graha is surely good because we know it is powerful. When I say good, then we have a confusion, not because of retrograde, because astrology is like that, where you cannot say anything good, right? For example, if you say Venus is the best planet and Guru is the best planet, for some Lagna it becomes Maraka. Yeah, it becomes functionally malefic. And for, let's say, Sagittarius ascendant, Maharishi says just only one person is deadly is Venus. Right? It's very clearly said. So we should not take it as controversial or a point of debate. We have to take a stance. But what happened was, a little later on, when more authors came in, they slightly, because it was confusing, they created some rules. And these ideas got in the way. And then there was a lot of confusion regarding it. Okay. But it is always better to know in a certain way that the retrograde planet is trying to catch our attention. It is something special. Because it is not the normal thing.
Yeah.
So why? So something special about it. Maybe we should spend more time on what this graha is to the person. And in astrology, if you say strong planet, we know it is bound to do what it wants. And weak is a suspicious, whether he can really do it or not. So based on this and a comparison with who are good and who are bad, we can't really come to a conclusion whether a retrograde planet is good or bad. The point is, for a particular person, you will have to adjust it. I'll give an example straight away. Suppose I say that for Karkadaga Lagna, Jupiter is definitely a good planet, right? He is a designated good planet. And let's say he is very strong. Okay, very strong in the chart. And then we say, moreover, he is exalted. Okay, wait, just one more point. And then maybe the sun is in Capricorn, in which case it becomes retrograde also. Now, even without any other, bringing in facts like retrograde, Jupiter is doing well here. If it is retrograde, you just reconfirm it that it is this guy has come to get the reward. He has come to get the reward. So why did you go back? It is like you went back, give me my reward.
Mhm.
Whereas if it was a negative thing, you should say, give me my punishment.
Right.
So I think that makes sense anyway, because see, I want to look at the sky like a video. When we are born, we are not looking at it like a video. We are looking at it like as a photograph.
Photograph. Yes.
So in a photograph, you don't know how the planet got there at a particular point. It got there by direct motion, the regular direct motion, or did it reach there by retrograde? They're
Yes.
two different things. Unfortunately, we don't imagine it like that. We only say, okay, it's there. For example, let's say a planet by retrograde even manages to cross a sign.
Yes.
It happens, right?
Happens.
That case, you have to think, oh, this baby wanted that graha only in this sign, and that's why the retrograde itself is happening. So we can take it like that. So, but what we don't understand is that we have an argument that Vakra is not real. Because we seem to understand the solar system and say which planet is going backwards. It's not like a car, it stops and goes backward. All the grahas are only going forward. So it's not going backwards. And then the argument is, should we take it seriously? But for us, we are earth-centered and we are I-centered.
Yeah.
It's always me and I. What is it for me? What is it for me? So let's not confuse ourselves, because already it is confusing. And on top of that, if you say this is apparent motion, don't give it any importance. No, it's not, because so many rules have come up in Ayurveda calculation, longevity calculation, whatever you are doing. Suddenly the question comes up, is the planet Vakra? Multiply 3 times the number of years allotted to it, and you get extra. So most probably the one who has many retrograde planets is going to live longer, at least by that calculation. So we have to take a stance. We will have to say that mostly it is good. Mostly it is good.
Yeah.
If you allow me to do a screen share, I have something that I always show to my students when I do some courses. Is it okay?
Yeah, please go ahead. It's your class.
Okay. So this is the my level 2 classes. I use these things. So
thank you for sharing this.
Okay. So first of all, retrograde grahas are rare. Okay, I'm not going to read out the entire thing. Because anyway it's there. So usually I look at it as something rare. Okay, from this we have taken up all these things. At least one point, I'm making a U-turn. I have a reason. Okay, at least that point you can consider as a very big thing. And then, of course, because I've used the word rare, the rest follows. I'm rare and so on. So I'm saying I'm unique and so on. So it is having some agenda. Now, we know that we have so many divisional charts. And in a divisional chart, a graha has reached a particular point only because it managed to retrograde and reach there.
Right.
So every retrograde graha, please give it more and more weightage in the divisional chart. Definitely you have to give more weightage, because anyway, I'll show some more slides, then we will understand that. So here the topic is, it is rare and therefore it is different, and it is trying to tell us something more, like how eclipse is rare and therefore eclipses are saying something extra. So whatever happens once in a while, you have to give a lot of importance. Amavasya is very important. Purnima is very important, like that. The word Vakra is so, there's so many ways of looking at it. We say it is curving, it is twisting, it is turning and all that. But in South India, at least, when I consult people from Tamil Nadu, etc., they'll say, sir, what to do, sir? This graha is, this is retrograde. Yeah. What should I do? Because in Tamil, Vakra means very bad. Yeah. Okay. Because of this, like, dishonest, fraudulent, and,
almost all of them are negative.
Negative terms. Yeah, negative terms. And that, is the reason why this went into so much of controversy, because now, so retrograde grahas are very strong. When you make a car with 5 gears, you also put a reverse gear,
Right.
right? And we really know what a reverse gear can do when you are stuck in a traffic and you got caught in a situation. In parking places, you will see somebody park the car in such a way that unless you take reverse, you can't get out. So there will be some karma which will be like you have to go reverse and finish that and come back. Otherwise, you will not be able to move forward. And you can keep looking at everything that goes backwards and then goes forward. So these are the hints, like an arrow in the bow. In one of my videos, I actually have a bow and arrow in my hand and I pull and show, just in case people don't understand. I just show the arrow and say, see, this arrow is so quiet and it is unable to do anything. But whereas if I put it on this bow and pull it, see, it is now having all the capacity. So yeah, so retrograde grahas is more intense, and you when you read it, you know, like for example, in the Western world, so much you can see the last line. Mercury is the most famous retrograde planet, right? And even in our case also, we said, okay, we'll wait for Mercury. Sometimes there is sense because I mean that's how astrology is, right? So so another thing very interesting for me was forgot something very important for the journey, so I go back to get it.
Very important.
I forgot my wallet. I forgot my passport. And then I go back to the house and take it and then come back. So these are something like if you want to move forward, you can't move forward until you go backwards. So there will be something matching up with our karma. So a retrograde graha surely must be the owner of some house in every horoscope. So you must start imagining maybe there is something so strong about the houses that it rules and the house that it is placed. Because why did it want to reach there? Okay. Then this question about is it real or unreal? Then I say that no, it's always from our point of view. We are only going to talk about the universe from our point of view, right? Okay, so, and here I have said Maharishi Parashara confirms it is very strong.
Yes.
So surely it is, there's no doubt, and it is Cheshta Bala. See, it is more about action more than something like a nature.
Yes.
So let's when we discuss retrograde, let us not talk about nature, type of character. Oh, this Jupiter is retrograde, so he'll be like this and like that. Instead, let's talk about events. Like it should be more action, because Jyeshta Bala is usually only related to the kinetic energy. It is not about somebody sitting and talking. Okay. It is somebody who's in action. So I always thought Vakragraha should be like I'm in action more than yeah. So so therefore in predictive astrology we have now two things. One, we have the static horoscope, in which case it is permanently there, but then there is something called the transit. Yes, and in the transit, every time it goes backwards, something gets connected to what that particular graha wants to establish. So I always feel, though in the basic chart, the natal chart, we are pretty sure about that it is very favorable and so on. When it comes to timing events, I think Prashna system always uses retrograde the maximum. Because if you are asking a question, and let's say the question is in such a way that the Prashna Lagna, Jupiter is going backwards, and Jupiter is the lord of the 7th house, and there we take a different approach. You asked a question about marriage, we are saying no, it won't happen now. You will have to wait. Nothing is going to be firmed up until this Jupiter comes forward. So at least like that we can use. Whereas in the static horoscope, we can only look at it once in a while, because when is this planet retrograde, or we can consider it as a synopsis. Why did you come? Just that is the third paragraph. In the static, we can use the information to get a synopsis view of life. Maybe, see, because if you look at any horoscope in terms of past life and why and what is your main agenda here, it is mostly going to be Rahu Ketu position. Yeah. But if you extend that idea, if you have a retrograde planet in the horoscope, maybe even that planet can be considered like Rahu and Ketu. But not in that way. Not that it is bad, but it is that they are the intention. Like the Buddha always says, there is the Chetana, which is the main reason for rebirth. Okay, I have a very strong intention, and therefore, so you know so many things, like even in the ghost movie or whatever, you see that the person has been murdered and he wants to come back and then punish the person. So many things. So the intensity will be very high. So I would like to say, when you're looking at static, that is the natal horoscope, is quite different from the transit effects, actually, when it comes to retrograde. I'll show you a diagram, which is, this is the, how many days the retrograde grahas are, This is the main point. Sri Yukteswar, the yogi, says a child is born on that day and that hour, and the celestial rays are in mathematical harmony with his individual karma. So in order to adjust the individual karma, for this Atma, this particular planet has to be here, and it will come backwards to prove the point. Okay. So this is the actual diagram which explains why it appears to go backwards. The line where it is the maximum, which is the midpoint of the retrograde, is A3. And where it is A1 is where it starts. You can imagine this. This particular graha is actually Mars. Okay, this one is Mars, and this one is obviously Earth. Okay, so you know from this that the Earth moves and also the Mars moves. But if you start connecting lines like this, you can easily understand why the retrogression actually happens. So it starts at one point, and then there is a middle where it is direct opposition, and it is equidistant on either side. Okay, so this is an apparent motion, but it is still reality.
So, sir, you have already covered a lot of the questions in a educational context. So
Okay.
I will skip a few questions because you have answered them.
Okay.
My question is, let's say one planet is retrograde. But when a planet is retrograde, we understand it packs a lot of karma. Is it good karma or is it always bad karma?
So how to answer this? You, without bringing in retrogression, you finish off the the verdict. You don't have to get confused with the how will you do it just for an ordinary graha. So you finish the you confirm whether it is good and bad by using standard approach of whether it is good or bad. And once you finished with that, then you say, moreover, this graha is retrograde, and so surely that will happen. That's all. This is the best way to come out of all the confusions.
Right. Very, very, very clarifying.
Yeah.
Now I will request you a few insights on the retrograde planets, and I would particularly want to you to emphasize on Shani and Mars. Mercury, though we all know.
Yeah, it's very frequent. It happens 3 times a year.
Sir, shall we start with Mercury?
Saturn? Mercury. You want to start with Mercury? Okay.
What does retro Mercury signify, and what are the blessings of curses of a retro Mercury in a horoscope? Of course, we know that.
So in this case, what we do, we take up the natural, the karakatva of every graha. Okay. What they signify. And in the Kala Purusha, Mercury is also anyway the ruler of the third in Kala Purusha, which is Gemini, and therefore it's so much communication. But we'll have to generalize it because we can't just talk about electronics this time, because this is because we are now in electronics age. But what would have happened 100 years back, 500 years back, and so on. So it's basically, I think it is more to do with the standard things of Mercury, which is speech and communication in general. So if let's say that the graha is maybe a functional benefic for maybe Taurus ascendant, and then it is retrograde, and let's say by luck the person has got it in the third house. I'm just giving you an imaginary situation. So the third house is also a communication, and so Mercury, when it is there, it will become so much of communication that the person, when they are very young itself, they will learn at least 5 languages. Yeah. Because they were with literature and they were with all this communication thing. Sometimes they are singers, sometimes they talk very well. You can see some people are naturally gifted in memory matters, and so on. So I know of a child who has a similar position, Mercury retrograde, but in a very auspicious house. When at the age of 6, she memorized the entire Tirukkural.
Wow.
So how do you explain that? Because this must have been a case of a past birth where the person must have worked on it so much that when she was born again, it just came back again to it. So we see that happening in so many of these, like, so if you give importance to the karakatva, we don't have to look any further, that this must be the case. But then suppose it is the other way around. We are seeing that Mercury is in a bad shape in the chart, though retrograde. Okay. Not just functionality, but let's say it is in the sign of Mars. And then we have one more affliction. Then it might be, now it is retrograde also. So therefore, it might be actually a punishment because of, maybe you spoke too much in your past life. You misguided people by communication. You promised them like how politicians do, and you did something, and then you messed up with people, and so on. So this could be, so sometimes you can see if Mercury is afflicted, they'll be stammering. So it will be like almost the system says, this time I won't allow you to talk so easily.
Yeah.
So it can be that. So like this, if you are able to take the karaka, you should be able to get all the answers. So for Mercury, it is like this. But in today's world, we because we are using so much of computers and electronics and our mobile phone, it is usually this is not working. But actually, it is not true. It is only that these things are helping us to communicate, and our communication has to stop. The communication has to be delayed, and that may be the reason. And even then, it should be only a negative Mercury debilitated. That is, we have to first understand what it is, and then say whether it is good or bad. But so this is the standard way astrology is always, right? If you want to know something about a planet, you need to know the karakatva, right?
Sir, I have heard a theory, and there was a hint of it in your notes, that
Okay.
a retro planet is like a retreating tiger.
Yeah, correct. Because
like you said, as an arrow, it will take some, and after a point, it is going to push forward.
Yeah.
Okay. Sir, so can we say hypothetically a good Mercury will keep silent? Let's say a retro Mercury is good. He'll keep silent, he'll keep reading, keep silent, keep reading, and nobody would suspect, but one day he ends up topping the exam.
Very good. Very good. We can say that. Yeah, they're very quiet in the beginning, but they're preparing. Right?
So
nice point.
one shouldn't mess with the retro Mars, I guess.
Yeah, they'll be ready to, because Mars is a natural karaka for enemy.
Yeah.
And the fighting spirit. So you might be, somebody did this to me, and this time I'm going to fight, and maybe we might get injured also in that. So it is a possibility for Mars.
So retro Venus, sir, your thoughts on retro Venus?
Retro Venus is very important when it comes to relationship, and we find this often that when there is a static potential in the horoscope for, let's say, troubled marriage, and then Venus is retrograde, we have usually found that after the divorce, the person will say, I made a mistake, I want to go and patch up with the same person.
Oh.
It has happened so many times. In my consultations, I noticed. And they'll be so genuinely interested. Now I realize this is a mistake. Can we patch up? So that is very often the case when Venus is retrograde. But for that, you must have first ascertained that there is troubled marriage. If it is positive, Venus retrograde might be slightly different. It might be that this is the same person with whom you spent time in the past life also. And that is where it is good, actually. So we are catching up again.
Or maybe you were very simple before your marriage, and after marriage you suddenly turned glamorous. Okay, great. Mars, sir, and this one I would request you to emphasize upon, because this is something which I see frequently, and it can be dangerous if people don't understand this one retrograde.
Correct. Because the natural animal instinct in us will want to settle old scores. from the past life in terms of you did this to me, I want to do this back to you. We always have that habit. So Mars might represent that. Let's say for a Taurus ascendant, Mars is already the 7th lord and the 12th lord. And then if it is retrograde, let's say in the house of enemy, then it can become, you always have this habit that I'll take revenge. Even the other sign of Mars, which is Scorpio, is a sign of revenge. So if you think about the way they will do it is, they will, because Mars is also a kind of a double-edged thing, because we have on one side, Mars is the police, and sometimes Mars is the thief or the murderer also. So we have to understand, because sometimes the policeman will be like, I'll one day arrest you, like that. Okay, I'm coming back again. This time you managed to escape, something like that. So you do find if Mars is Yoga Karaka, and then it is in this life, you will catch up and punish the wrongdoer. Okay. Whereas if it is negative, you might be on the receiving end.
So one thing I've noticed, I don't know, I'm just still doing research on it. I've just picked up that thread. If there is a planet which is retro, the rulership of that house would never fructify easily. This is what I've seen. I know a person with a Mars being 4th lord, Makar Lagna. Okay. Whenever he buys property, there is always some problem.
Okay, got it.
Some document will get loose, some wrong property will get approved, something would go wrong. And after that, he'll fight his way out.
In this case, I think you are referring to Makar Lagna, right?
Yes.
Capricorn. And we know Maharshi Parashara has termed Mars surprisingly as a Maraka itself. And we do not know on what basis he even used the word Maraka. So the Maraka nature and then combining it with the 4th signification, which is the purchase of property. Therefore, retrograde can be delayed. Yeah. So you can.
There is some sort of a correction required.
Yes, correct.
There is some sort of a correction involved in the Karakatva or the house placement of that planet. This is what I've seen.
Exactly. So you can bring them together. But let's say how in practical life, how will the person solve a problem? He will go and bribe the officer in charge, So again, it will come back to, paying back for something that you have messed up in the past life. So somebody will be there, you give me extra money, only then I'll finish the deal, and so on. We will have to go through that. So something has to be lost to obtain it in case of sin.
Sir, one thing which I've often heard people say, I have a retro Mars, somebody told me I'll get into an accident. How true is that?
No, that is not correct, because unless you have so many indications in the horoscope, actually without even considering retrograde, you must first ascertain whether there is the possibility of accident. Like usually 4th lord and the 6th is a surefire rule for accidents. Okay, we can take like that. If it is there, and then on top of that, Mars is also, because Mars is a kind of a gadget and it's a machinery. It is something that we have fabricated. So it's like our regular machines. So obviously, vehicle is a machine, and it is also injury. It's also a weapon. So the vehicle could have become like a weapon and damage the person's physical. So it is possible, but without ascertaining it, the overall chart, we cannot use simple ideas like, no, it is Vakra, then therefore it will surely do it.
A blanket prediction. Okay.
Correct.
Sir, is there any particular house where retro planets do well, or is it just as per the nature of the planet and you just amplify it?
Yes, sir. Because I'll tell you what is a clue. Think about it like this. In Brihat Parashara Shastra, BPHS, you go through the entire book. He has not changed he has not given weightage to the prediction side just because a planet is retrograde. He has not done that at all. The only place he used was, of course, in Shadbala calculation. He says it is more powerful, Shakta and all that we discussed. And then there is something called the Drekana rule, where he said, if they're in the beginning Drekana, the first Drekana, the result of a planet will come always in the first 1/3 of its dasha. But if it is retrograde, he says just reverse it. If it is retrograde, you just reverse it.
Now,
Yeah, so like that in the middle, you say it is in the middle, and so on. So that is the only place. When you go through Dasha and Dasha Adhyaya, the good and bad, the bad Dashas, all the logics, why is it that he has not used even one question whether a Graha is retrograde? He has not used it at all. He has even used conditions like is it exalted in Navamsha? Of course, combustion he has used. He has used, is it in a bad position from Lagna, from Dashanath, all this. And you cannot dismiss it off by saying, no, maybe he just forgot to say, because if you look at the entire, all the chapters, nine major chapters for the 9 grahas, Antardasha is 9 into 9, 81 sets of data. Not once had he asked retrograde. So it is surely we'll have to say we are not going to change the prediction because of retrograde. We are only going to, like, for example, you said there could be delay because he is not able to, he's not able to achieve it because we already determined that it is a bad planet for that Lagna.
Yeah, so would it be safe, sir, to say that the planet is powerful but complicated?
Correct. Yes, definitely.
All right, so great. Now going to Jupiter, the happy planet, retrograde. So
Jupiter, there are so many nice things because Jupiter, luckily for us, rules many good things. So he rules the money, right? Is the Dana Karaka. So we have that, and then he is the celebration graha, because when children are born, we all celebrate. So usually for all the good things in our life, he is the Karaka, right? He's a Karaka for the 11th house. It's almost opposite Saturn, right? So whatever problems you may have with Saturn in the horoscope, a retrograde Jupiter might be a strong graha to fight that.
okay.
Definitely. So, for example, I think there was only some confusion in the modern research that if you refer to Mark Bonney, who has produced a lot of books on astrology, he says only when it comes to medical astrology, a retrograde Jupiter is bad.
Okay.
Or I think he is hinting at that Jupiter will not help because it is going backwards. That's the only point. Whereas in modern research or even in the ancient books, we know that the Jupiter is even in Nadi textbooks, you will find all the formula. Good happens, Jupiter transit. Only Jupiter is the reason, right? So if such a wonderful Jupiter is retrograde, most probably 80% of the time it should be good only for anybody.
Maybe it might take a little time, but will give a bumper result.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Like, because in the time that you pull the arrow, you're losing time, right? You lose time there, but then you need to do that. So some things are like that. So a typical case would be you go to a bank and they delay the loan for quite some time, and once you get the loan, you become a billionaire. Okay, so in the beginning there will be some delay.
All right, sir. The big one, Shani. I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yes. So as again, we will have to think about what is a promise in the horoscope. I'll give you a very big example. When already the person has combination for imprisonment, and Saturn in the sky gets retrograde. Okay, not static, I'm saying. And in a particular bad dasha and antardasha combination, already everything is brewing up. It is coming to a finalization. At that time, when the verdict comes, if Saturn is retrograde, surely the judge is going to give a long-term sentence. It will surely be that. Okay, so we can look at Saturn as a real, like a punishment graha, and is definitely the loss karaka, right? The loss karaka, or all of the 12th house, whatever, imprisonment. So, but I also found people kind of renounced life if Saturn is retrograde in the horoscope and Saturn was actually positive in the chart. So they suddenly thought there's no point with all this life. So let me do a lot of charity. And I want to give everything up. So they do what is called the sacrifices. and there'll be at a very large scale sacrifice, like public social welfare and so on, and then by that he might also become famous. So they might be in what they say, um, not all the time, but at least genuine Swamijis of the times when you start an ashram and you have a lot of fan following, because Saturn is also fan following.
Okay. I
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah, Saturn is the fan following graha, because Saturn is the attraction, because in the sky, if you look at Saturn, he is very attractive
Oh, yes.
because he has a beautiful ring around him. And, when I heard that the rings won't last for long, I said, how many years? They said some million years ahead, only after that it will go. So I'm not bothered about that. Still very, very
Yeah, yeah, most
beautiful, very beautiful, right?
When you say
So,
that,
yes, Saturn is definitely a mass planet. And in today's world of democracy, Saturn, if some politician has Saturn well placed and Vakra in the, let's say, 10th house,
10,000.
he will have so much fan following, so much of people behind him.
I have never seen a common man with a 10,000 Shani. It's always some big shot.
Yeah,
And
that's very nice. Yeah.
Ministers, I've seen bureaucrats.
Yeah.
10th Shani is the titan. For some
Exactly.
reason, Shani just rules the 10th in a very strong manner.
That is because in the Kalapurusha chakra itself, Saturn is in own house if you place it in the 10th, right? So he's primarily a well-placed Saturn will be just the opposite of its Karaka. If it is imprisonment and if it is Nashta, which is Vyaya, it will be just the opposite. It will be a giver. In Tamil Nadu, we have the saying, if Saturn gives, who can block? In Tamil, they say, Shani Koduppar, ever Tadupar. Who can block? If he's the one who's giving.
So Shani
Saturn,
in the 12th, sorry, I just missed this one.
Yeah.
Shani in the 12th, a person becomes a giver, is it?
No, wait. We have a confusion there. It is not like that. If it is a very nice graha, it is designated good planet, and then if it is in the 12th, it will be like he will be doing a lot of charity. Yeah. But if it is not, and then it is in the 12th, it will be a life of suffering. Yeah. He will feel imprisoned, and he will, he'll be restricted, and he won't actually enjoy life at all. There will be a lot of sleeplessness in the last phases of his life, because 12th house is the last phase. He will be diseased and might unfortunately have to go through some terminal disease. Mm-hmm. So I got the clue by referring to some philosophical books and spiritual books where if you are heavily punished, it might actually square up some of the big chunks of past life problems. So Saturn might be the one which holds that. But while the person is going through the trouble, you can't tell, good, you are having all this trouble because your karma is getting washed out. We'll become the hated astrologer if you make such statements. Yeah. Like, this is good for you. But personally, sometimes, you can take it upon yourself. Like, for example, if I have headache, I keep the tablet, which is a painkiller, in my pocket and walk around and say, let me see how much can I endure this pain. Let it come. It's okay. I'll manage at least this much. And then when I'm cornered, I will use the tablet. But usually the case is after some time, the pain goes away. So it's all about patience also. But Saturn is very tricky. A Vakra Saturn in the 12th with affliction by Rahu is one of the main reasons for helplessness and imprisonment. To them, we say, why don't you get imprisoned? Meaning, why don't you go into meditation? Why don't you get in an ashram and spend more time? I think in Andhra Pradesh, they have an option where you pay money, they'll give you one day, you can stay in the jail.
Serious?
Yeah, serious. Yeah. You can make the payment and get inside and stay there if you want to know what it is. Okay.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
Now, coming to this thing, what are some remedies that you would suggest for a particularly retrograde planet? We all know the regular remedies, and you have suggested many of them. You have also suggested in your videos how to make those remedies. So that was one particular video I totally loved. So
when it is retrograde, because the intention is so high, we need to find out what is the intention from the horoscope and say, you don't have to be so much, if it is negative, you have to tell them, let's come down to the Shanti level. Let's not be so much agitated. See, for example, if you have on 1/7 axis Rahu Ketu and then Saturn retrograde, obviously the sun might be on the opposite side, and then it might be an eclipse as well. They'll be always angry and hell bent on punishing the spouse.
Yeah.
I know of a person who, even after the divorce happened, in the consultation, he'll always ask, "Do you now think that my wife will pass away? She's not even in your life. Why are you bothered about her?" No, sir. I want her. Something has to happen to her. So you're revisiting that. So by ascertaining what you're revisiting, what is your intention, a good guru will say, please drop it, move ahead in life. You don't have to, keep thinking on this. It's over. You don't have to be so revengeful, because it's only going to destroy you. Because revenge comes along with it comes anger. And these are all designated, emotions to destroy us. It's only going to make our life miserable.
More bad.
So, or even before you get into just a special remedy for retrograde planet, first of all, when you ask this question, what is the remedy for retrograde planet? Now we are assuming that retrograde planets are always bad, right? So first 50-50, based on the planet. Sometimes you don't need remedies at all. Okay, we don't need remedies because it's already going to do well. But you have the other side where it might be punishment.
That is what I was.
Yeah, that in that punishment area, you say, find out all the things about the overall chart. Where is the pressure? And you have to teach them. So this is not the way. The dharma says that this is how you live. Okay. So I have always kept I always gave a lot of importance to, if you want to say something so strongly in its divisional chart, that is, you already have something happening in the fourth house, a retrograde planet afflicted. And when I ask them, they themselves will admit that the only enemy in my life is my mother. Please, but then it is only an attempt, because the person will say, no, sir, I still have to teach her a lesson. Yeah. So it's very difficult to convince people into a remedy. And remedies are usually attitude changing. And usually meditation is the key to forget, something that you carried forward from your past lives. It's very, that is what the Buddha also kept saying again and again. So it is better to join a very good ashram where they teach you the real, the Patanjali meditation, and you go into the meditative state and start forgiving, making confessions. Like, for example, Pitru Dosha, and then you have on top of that a Mars retrograde on the 9th house. The season now, Pitru Paksha, they can do, maybe go to Gaya and Kashi and do all the rituals there. So like that, depending upon what was originally there in the horoscope, and then it is retrograde, and you also see a lot of trouble in that that area of your life, it is better. It's like saying, please do it. You got no choice, because it is retrograde also. It is implying this so strongly.
In Hindi, we say, "Has ke karo ya ro ke karo." You can do it laughing or you can do it crying. You have to do it.
Correct. Exactly. Oh, you're very happy with your language, right? So
I do tend to. I have a first house Mercury, so I have a little colorful language.
Oh, you have Mercury in the first. That is a typical combination for an astrologer, right? Sage Bhrigu in Bhrigu Sutram says, if Mercury is in the Lagna, the person can become a very good astrologer.
It's such an honor, sir. Any concluding remarks you could give? I mean, this is one of the best videos I have seen about retrograde ever, and I'm so happy to be a part of this. Thank you so much for sharing this knowledge. Any concluding comments you have? Anything you would like to advise our viewers?
Okay, we have, because the subject of astrology is now expanding all over the world, and we have lots of some differences between authors, right? So, and these have actually made it more difficult for all of us, because then we can't conclude, because as it is, it's such a very difficult science.
Oh yeah.
So we need to standardize and come to one. Let's not keep on going back and forth. Retrograde planet, which is debilitated, like this, and keep arguing, because finally, what will we gain from it? Right. Okay, this is one. Second, we should do more case studies to prove what we are saying.
Absolutely.
Yes, because if you are only going to talk theoretically, what is the point? You can always talk either way. If I
Yeah.
ask the question, is Gandhi good or Gandhi bad? Mahatma Gandhi. We can go endlessly with it, right? But then it will not serve the purpose. Whereas we can say, I will take up the good side of Mahatma Gandhi, and I will use it in my life. That's all. I'm not bothered about other things. So suppose if we come to this stance and we want to really firm up, how will you firm up without case studies?
Right.
So you have case studies, and case studies you should try to link it up with the dasha and antardasha, because that nails everything.
Absolutely.
Why is it happening only now? Is it a very general prediction we are giving, or is it something so strongly connected to whatever we are talking? See, we are talking about this and it happened at that time.
Right.
Exactly. Only in that period it happened. See, I know of a person who remarried his ex-wife.
Wow.
And when I checked the dasha and antardasha, it was the same retrograde planet which did it.
Oh.
So if you know like this, then you will say, no, who knows whether that marriage is going to be good or not. See, these are all again and again not allowing us to firm up.
Yes.
But when we say no, I'm sure at least people's life experience should be the final word.
Exactly.
It should not be our theoretical explanation. Suppose Maharshi says, 5th Lord in the 12th, adopt a child. Okay, example. And there was a time when I saw a husband and wife both having 5th Lord in the 12th.
Okay.
Wait a minute, something like that. I think 5th Lord in the 6th it was. So 5th Lord in the 6th afflicted. Okay. And there was malefics in 5th. It was identical type, but they were born at different times. 11 years, no children. Okay. Then I told them, don't wait. Don't go for doctors. You simply adopt a child. Because I showed the text. What is the Maharshi saying? Adopt a child.
Right.
But if you start looking at another way, everybody having 5th Lord in the 6th not having children? No, that's not true. But when it is this way, then it is proven that it is coming from karma, because Maharshi is only discussing karma. So like that, we will have to show the proof of, if you say a debilitated planet is retrograde, it acts like a exalted planet. Let's prove it. Is something happening in that antardasha?
Right.
But the problem here is retrograde planet anyway will tend to become stronger. So at least in this case, it will be different. So, but if it is debilitated and retrograde, exalted and retrograde, there must be a very big difference in that. So we need to show the proof. That's what I'm thinking. So that was a point I would like to say. Let's try to, whenever anybody writes on this subject, let them write with 10 horoscopes.
Yeah.
10 horoscopes and say, see, in this period, this happened. Like, if you're a professional astrologer, you'll have to, document every time something impresses you, so that after 5 years, you can come up with a nice set of, data and publish it and then prove the point. And slowly, I think we will all get to the truth about these things.
In my corporate days, I was trained on something known as Six Sigma. I'm sure you have come from an engineering background, And I found that approach very useful. Start with a null hypothesis.
Correct.
Start with your own hypothesis.
Correct.
If it works, it works. If it's repeatable, reproducible, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, no matter what.
Exactly. Beautiful.
That is great, sir. What a discussion, sir. What an honor. And I will not take a lot of your time. It's Sunday evening. I will definitely let you go. But in next 3 to 6 months, I might come back to you with folded hands. So please grace this fan of yours. Thank you so much. Such an honor, sir. Honored.
You're such a nice person, though the mustache is trying to tell us something else.
Karka Chandrama here, but sun in the first year.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir.
Your genuine efforts in giving more clarity to astrology is actually, it's laudable, and I wish you all the best in all your future endeavors with astrology.
Thank you, sir. Coming from you, it's a blessing and an honor. Dhanyavad. Goodbye. Jai Sangh.